Hey guys, tonight we walk into the long shadow of the Great Pyramid, not as kings or scholars, but as someone with dusty hands, sore shoulders, and a very practical concern about limestone behaving itself. You are standing on the Giza plateau just before sunrise, when the air is cool enough to feel kind, and the desert hasn't yet decided to remind you who's really in charge. The pyramid rises beside you, unfinished, enormous, and oddly quiet, like something pretending to be asleep. Birds circle lazily overhead and somewhere nearby. Stone scrapes against stone in a slow, steady rhythm that already feels like the heartbeat of your day. You are a stonemason, not a famous one. Not the kind who gets statues or inscriptions. You shape blocks. You lift, align, tap, adjust, repeat. If history remembers you at all, it will do so indirectly, through angles that still hold and joints that don't fail. Honestly, that feels like enough, before anything else really settles in. Let's acknowledge something gently uncomfortable. You probably wouldn't survive this job. The heat, the lifting, the lack of ergonomic tools. The general absence of lunch breaks, as a concept, none of it screams modern comfort. Still, there's a strange calm to it. No notifications, no deadlines measured in minutes. Just stone, light, and patience. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, maybe drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is there. Dawn, dusk, or somewhere in between. We're all walking into this together. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sun edges up slowly, and with it comes color. Pale gold spills across the sand, catching on the pyramid's limestone casing stones, making them glow faintly, almost politely. This isn't the blazing desert yet. This is the gentle version. The version that lets you believe the day will be reasonable. Around you, other workers move quietly, speaking in low voices, conserving energy. There's no shouting, no dramatic commands. Just gestures, nods, familiar routines. A widely accepted historical fact settles into place here. The builders of the Great Pyramid were not slaves in chains, but paid laborers, skilled workers who lived nearby, ate well, and worked in rotating crews. You are one of them. Tired, trained, and oddly proud. You run your hand along a block of limestone, freshly cut, its surface cool and faintly chalky. Tool marks remain visible, shallow lines that catch dust and light. You know this stone. You know how it behaves when it's set properly, and how it sulks when it isn't. Your tools are simple. Copper chisels, wooden mallets, stone hammers. No magic, no mystery, just repetition and experience. A lesser-known detail slips in quietly. Many of these tools wear out quickly and are reshaped or replaced often. The pyramid isn't built with indestructible instruments. It's built with persistence. You take your place along the ramp, helping guide a block into position. Ropes tighten, bodies lean. Someone hums under their breath, off-key but steady. The block slides, then settles with a dull, satisfying thud. You exhale without realizing you are holding your breath. This is how most days go. The shadow of the pyramid shifts slowly as the sun rises higher. You notice it the way you always do, not consciously, but instinctively. Shadows here are timekeepers. They tell you when to work faster, when to slow down, when to drink water, when to stop pretending you're not tired. There's a rhythm to this place that settles into your bones. Work, rest, adjust. Work, rest, adjust. You don't think about the pyramid as a monument. It's more like a very demanding co-worker who never stops growing. As the morning stretches on, you're assigned to a section lower down, closer to the pyramid's core. The stones here feel different, not smoother or rougher, just heavier somehow. Not in weight, but in presence. You tell yourself that's nonsense. Stone is stone. Still, you take your time. A light joke drifts through your thoughts. If the pyramid had moods, today would be quietly judgmental. Sweat darkens the linen at your back. Stone dust clings to your arms. You pause to drink water from a shared jar, its surface warm already. No one complains. Complaining wastes breath. As you resume work, you notice something small. Almost nothing. A block that doesn't quite sit the way you expect. The gap is minimal, barely worth mentioning, but your hands feel it before your eyes do. You tap, adjust, tap again. The sound is off. Not wrong, just different. You don't say anything yet. You file it away. Historians still wonder how much freedom individual workers had to question plans or methods during construction. Were deviations corrected immediately, or quietly noted and addressed later? Standing here, you suspect the truth is somewhere in between. Experience respected, but silence often preferred. The day continues. The sun climbs. The pyramid's shadow shortens, then shifts. Work carries on, calm and relentless. That small difference in the stone lingers in your mind. Not urgently, just patiently. You wipe your hands on your linen kilt and step back, looking up at the immense structure above you. It doesn't feel threatening. It feels old already, even as it's being born. And somewhere deep within it, something waits not loudly, not urgently, but steadily, like stone remembering something before names existed. The heat settles in the way it always does, gradually and without apology. Like a heavy blanket someone forgot to ask permission to place over your shoulders. You've learned not to fight it. Fighting the heat only makes it win faster. You adjust your stance, feet firm against packed sand and stone chips, and return to the section that's been quietly bothering you. The block still sits there, behaving well enough to avoid suspicion, but not well enough to earn trust. It's the kind of thing only someone who works stone every day would notice. And you do. You always do. Around you, the sounds of the worksite continue their steady murmur. Mallets tap, ropes creak. Someone laughs briefly at something you can't quite hear, then immediately regrets laughing because it uses up energy better saved for breathing. The pyramid's shadow has shifted again, creeping across the ground with slow confidence. You kneel and run your fingers along the seam between two stones. The gap is narrow to see clearly, but your fingertips find it icily. There's a faint draft, barely noticeable, just enough to make the fine dust move. You pause. That's new. Air movement inside a solid stone structure is not exactly encouraged. You glance around, half expecting someone to be watching you, but everyone is absorbed in their own tasks. This isn't a place for curiosity. Curiosity leads to extra work, and extra work leads to sore backs and quiet resentment. Still, you press gently. The stone doesn't move, but the sound it makes is different from the others. Slightly hollow, like knocking on a door you're not supposed to notice. You tell yourself it's nothing. A natural void. A quirk of construction. Limestone can be unpredictable. That's a widely accepted historical fact. Much of the pyramid's interior is made of local limestone, which varies in density and quality. No two blocks are ever quite the same, and yet you adjust your grip and tap again, softer this time. The sound returns, unmistakable now. Hollow isn't quite the right word. Reserved, maybe. Like the stone is keeping a secret, but isn't particularly stressed about it. A light joke drifts through your mind. If this turns out to be nothing, you'll still have a great story about the day you had a conversation with a wall. You straighten up and stretch, feeling your spine complain in several distinct languages. You consider telling a supervisor. You also consider how that would go. Plans are plans. Deviations are delays. Delays are frowned upon. The pyramid does not care about your curiosity, so you wait. Time moves differently here. The sun climbs, pauses, then begins its slow descent. Lunch is simple bread, onions, beer thick enough to count as a meal. Another lesser-known detail slips in quietly. Workers are often paid in beer, and it's not a luxury. It's calories, hydration, and morale all in one cloudy package. You drink gratefully. The afternoon light softens, and with it, your opportunity arrives. A small group is reassigned temporarily to another section. The area around your questionable stone grows quieter. Not silent, never silent, but quieter. You kneel again. This time, you bring a thin wooden wedge, the kind used to test alignment. You slip it carefully into the seam. It slides in farther than expected. Your pulse ticks up just slightly. You ease the wedge back out and glance around once more. Still no one watching. Just stone, dust, and the pyramid looming above, pretending it hasn't noticed you. You press gently against the block. Not hard, not enough to be obvious. Enough to ask a question. The stone shifts. Not dramatically. No grinding, no collapse, no cinematic reveal. Just a subtle give, like a door deciding whether it trusts you. A breath of cooler air brushes your hand. You freeze. Historians still wonder how many undocumented adjustments or discoveries occurred during the pyramids. Construction small moments that never made it into official records. Standing here, you realize how easily something could be found and quietly ignored. You widen the gap just enough to peer inside. Darkness, dense and patient. It doesn't rush out, it doesn't threaten. It just waits, the way enclosed spaces do when they've had a long time to practice. You feel a flicker of something that isn't fear. Respect, maybe, or the sudden awareness that you are very small, and the pyramid is very, very good at keeping things. You fetch a small oil lamp, shielding the flame with your body as you lower it toward the opening. The light spills in slowly, revealing stone surfaces smoother than expected. Not rough construction stone, finished stone. That's the part that unsettles you most. This space wasn't an accident. Inside, the chamber is narrow but deliberate. The walls are clean, the angles precise. No inscriptions, no decoration, no offerings. It's not shaped like a tomb. It's not shaped like anything you recognize. Another light joke bubbles up, uninvited. Congratulations, you've found the least festive room in Egypt. You crouch at the threshold, heart steady but alert. The air inside smells faintly different, cooler, drier, untouched by the sweat and noise of the worksite. You realize, with a quiet thrill, that this air has been sealed away longer than most stories have existed. You step inside, your sandals scuff softly against the floor. The chamber absorbs sound in a way that makes your movements feel louder than they should be. You lift the lamp higher, letting the light trace the walls. No hieroglyphs, no names. That's unusual. Even utilitarian spaces often bear marks, numbers, guidelines, notes from workers long gone. This room has none of that. It's as if it was never meant to be remembered. You turn slowly, taking it in. The ceiling slopes subtly, guiding the eye upward. There's no sarcophagus, no niches, no obvious purpose. Historians still debate whether all internal spaces of the Great Pyramid served funerary functions, or if some had symbolic, ritual, or even unknown purposes. Standing here, you suspect this room belongs firmly in the unknown category. A chill runs lightly along your arms. Not unpleasant, just noticeable. You feel the weight of the stone above you, thousands of tons arranged with impossible care. And beneath that weight, this small, quiet defiance of expectation. You should leave. You know that this isn't your responsibility. This isn't your place. And yet, you linger. The lamp flame flickers, steadying itself, and for a moment, you have the strange sensation that the room is less empty than it looks. Not occupied, just attentive. You shake your head softly. Long days do strange things to the mind. Stone is stone. Rooms are rooms. Still, as you step back out and ease the block into place, sealing the chamber once more, you can't shake the feeling that you've just walked past something that wasn't built for a king, a god, or even a memory. You don't mention the chamber. Not that evening, not the next morning, not when the work resumes with its familiar rhythm of rope and stone and quiet determination. The pyramid does not ask questions, and you decide to imitate its manners. The block settles back into place more easily than expected, as if relieved to resume pretending it's ordinary. Dust fills the seam again. A careless eye would never notice. Even a careful one would need a reason. You return to your tasks with the faintest change in posture, the kind only you feel. Every stone now seems slightly more opinionated. Each shadow looks like it's holding something back. You keep your face neutral, your movements practiced. You've learned that survival here is less about strength and more about not standing out. The sun rises and sets. It always does. The pyramid grows, course by careful course, a widely accepted historical fact made real through sore shoulders and chipped fingers. Tens of thousands of workers cycle through this place over years. Not slaves, as once imagined, but skilled laborers, fed, housed, and organized with impressive efficiency. You are part of that system, a cog that knows its job and tries not to think too much. Thinking too much is dangerous. Still, your mind returns to the chamber at odd moments. When you're smoothing a block and feel that subtle resistance under your tool, when the wind slips between stones and cools your neck, when the evening beer tastes just a little flatter than usual, someone nearby complains about bees again. They've built a nest near the water jars, and one worker swears they're organized enough to be planning something. You snort softly. Organized insects plotting rebellion, imagine that. It's your first joke of the day, and it lands quietly. At night, you lie on your mat, staring up at a sky so full of stars it feels almost crowded. You think about how the chamber felt. Not spooky, not sacred, just deliberate. That's what stays with you. Someone chose that space. Someone hid it. The next day, you're assigned closer to the core again. Your heart does a small, traitorous leap. You keep your head down. The overseer passes, nods once, moves on. He smells faintly of resin and authority. You work, stone dust coats your hands, your arms, your thoughts. The pyramid hums not audibly, but in the way massive things do when they're being assembled with purpose. There's a rhythm to it, like breathing slowed to the pace of centuries. Midday, you feel it again. The draft, it's faint, barely there, but it brushes past your wrist as you adjust a block nearby. You don't look. Looking would be too obvious. Instead, you focus on your tool, on the scrape and slide, on doing your job well enough that no one remembers your name. Another lesser-known detail drifts through your mind, uninvited. Some ancient builders marked secret corrections or features with symbols only they understood, knowing full well that official plans rarely survived contact with reality. It comforts you, oddly. You're not the first person to notice something unsanctioned. You take a sip of water and nearly laugh. Here you are, surrounded by one of the most scrutinized structures in human history, and you're worried about being seen, noticing something. The afternoon stretches. Muscles ache. Someone hums a tune that sounds like it's been passed down, already worn smooth. You wonder if the chamber hears it. You wonder if it's heard anything at all in the time it's been sealed. Historians still wonder how many internal spaces of the Great Pyramid remain undiscovered or misunderstood, especially those without inscriptions to announce their importance. You suspect some answers were never meant to be found quickly. As the light shifts, you make a small mistake. Nothing dramatic, just a misjudged angle, a tool slipping. The block you're working near shifts slightly, just enough to release a breath of cooler air. Someone else notices. It's not a shout, it's not an accusation, just a pause, a head tilt, a look. You freeze, then recover, smoothing the stone, muttering about alignment. The other worker shrugs. Limestone is limestone. Things happen. He returns to his task, already bored of the moment. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. Light joke number 2 floats through your mind. Congratulations, you've just survived your own suspense. That evening, you linger longer than usual near the site, helping stack tools, moving slower than necessary. The overseer waves you off eventually. Go rest. Tomorrow is another day of lifting eternity. You walk back to camp as the sky turns soft and bruised with color. Fires crackle. Someone tells a story about a cousin who claims the Nile listens if you complain loudly enough. You smile, half listening, half wondering if stone listens too. Sleep comes unevenly. Dreams slide in and out. In one, you're walking through the pyramid, but the corridors keep rearranging themselves politely, like they don't want to be rude, but also don't want you to get too comfortable. The next morning, you wake with a decision already made. You won't open the chamber again, not because you're afraid, not because you think it's dangerous, but because you understand something now. The room doesn't need you. It has waited this long without company. It can wait longer. Instead, you begin to notice patterns. Subtle shifts in stone color near the seam. The way certain sounds change when you pass. You learn to read the pyramid the way you read weather, by suggestion, not certainty. A widely accepted historical fact slips back in. The Great Pyramid was built with astonishing precision, aligned almost perfectly to the cardinal directions. That level of intention doesn't leave much room for accidents. The chamber's existence feels less like a mistake and more like a choice someone trusted stone to keep. Days turn into weeks. The pyramid rises. Your body adapts, complains, adapts again. The chamber remains sealed, quiet, patient. Sometimes, when no one is nearby, you rest your palm against the stone where you know the opening hides. It's cool, steady, solid. You don't feel watched. You feel acknowledged. Historians still debate whether ancient builders encoded symbolic meanings into architectural VOI, die spaces defined as much by absence as presence. Standing there, you wonder if the chamber is less about what it holds and more about what it refuses to explain. You step away when footsteps approach. Always, by the time your assignment shifts permanently to another section, the chamber has become part of your internal landscape. A quiet fact, a secret with no urgency. As you move on, carrying tools and muscle memory with you, the pyramid continues its slow ascent. It doesn't thank you, it doesn't warn you. It simply keeps its balance, stone over stone, idea over idea, and somewhere inside, behind a block that behaves just well enough, a small room remains exactly as it wasn't finished in purpose, finished in patience, and perfectly content to be forgotten. Your new assignment places you lower, closer to the base, where the air feels heavier and the stones seem more willing to absorb your exhaustion. It's quieter here, in a different way, not fewer people, but fewer conversations. Everyone saves their breath. The pyramid has trained you all well. You notice almost immediately, that the lower stones sound different. Not hollow, not solid, just settled. They've accepted their role. The chamber above feels farther away now, physically and mentally, like a thought you no longer need to finish. Still, it follows you. As you work, smoothing edges and guiding blocks into place, you begin to notice how often decisions are made without discussion. A hand signal replaces a shout. A glance replaces a plan. This is how massive things get built, not with constant supervision, but with quiet agreement. A widely accepted historical fact drifts in gently. Much of the Great Pyramid's construction relied on experienced workers making real-time adjustments, compensating for imperfections without waiting for permission. You are not assembling chaos. You are negotiating with it. Someone nearby mutters about honey again. There's a small ration distribution later, and honey is involved. Rare, valuable, sticky in every sense, used for food, medicine, offerings, even as pay, sometimes when supplies allow. You wonder, absently, if the chamber has ever tasted honey air sweetness drifting in from lamps and hands long gone. You catch yourself smiling at that thought, and immediately stop. Smiling at stone is how rumors start. Work continues. The sun climbs, pauses, then leans away. Shadows stretch, including the pyramid zone, which now reaches farther than it did yesterday. It's hard not to feel like you're standing inside a sundial that doesn't care what time it is. As you lift, guide, and settle stone, you overhear a discussion between two older workers. They talk about measurements, about a space that was adjusted because it felt right, not because it was ordered, not because it was drawn, because it balanced something unseen. You don't interrupt. You don't ask which space. You just listen, storing the words carefully, like tools you might need later. A lesser-known detail surfaces quietly. Ancient builders often relied on embodied knowledge skills, learned through repetition rather than instruction. You realize the chamber fits that logic. It feels right, even if it explains nothing. You take a break, sitting on a block warm from the sun. Your back thanks you reluctantly. You sip water and watch dust settle in slow, lazy spirals. It's almost meditative, if meditation involved constant risk of crushing injury. Light joke number 1 slips through. At least, if you fall asleep here, history will remember you very precisely. As the day cools, a faint breeze passes through the lower levels. It carries the smell of stone, sweat, and something faintly sweet, honey, maybe, or just imagination. You close your eyes briefly and let it pass over you. You think about law. Not the loud kind, no shouting, no punishment, but the quiet rules that everyone seems to follow without writing them down. Don't rush a block. Don't argue with gravity. Don't ask questions that make work harder. Historians still wonder how much of ancient construction culture was governed by informal norms rather than official decrees. You suspect the answer is most of it. When work ends, you linger again, though farther from the chamber now. You trace a line in the dust with your toe, then erase it. Marks fade quickly here. That feels intentional. Walking back to camp, you pass a group sharing bread drizzled with honey. Someone offers you a piece. You accept. It sticks to your fingers, stubborn and sweet, refusing to let go. You laugh, softly, second joke of the day. 'Cause, even after thousands of years, honey still doesn't respect personal boundaries. That night, sleep comes easier. You dream of stone stacked gently, without effort. Of rooms that exist only because someone allowed them to. Of silence that isn't empty, just well organized. When you wake, the memory of the chamber feels less sharp, more settled. Like a stone, placed properly at last. You return to work with steady hands and a calm you didn't expect. The pyramid grows. You do too, in ways no one is measuring. And somewhere above, sealed and undisturbed, the hidden room remains perfectly content to let the world carry on without understanding it. Morning arrives quietly, as if it doesn't want to interrupt whatever agreement the pyramid has reached with the sun. You wake before the signal, body already tuned to the rhythm of stone and light. Your muscles complain out of habit, not because they expect change. Today, you're assigned to shaping blocks destined for higher levels. Not the core, not the casing somewhere in between. Transitional stone, you like that, it feels honest. You settle into the work easily. Hammer, chisel, pause. The stone responds the way good stone does, breaking along lines that feel cooperative rather than stubborn. There's a kind of conversation to it. You listen, it answers. A widely accepted historical fact drifts in like background music. Skilled stonemasons were among the most valued workers on pyramid projects, trusted with precision tasks that required judgment rather than brute force. You don't think of yourself as valued, exactly, but you do notice when people stop double-checking your work. Mid-morning, someone nearby hums again. Different tune, this time, slower. It carries oddly well across the worksite, rising and falling with the scrape of tools. You catch yourself matching your rhythm to it. Stone likes rhythm. So do people. You notice something else, too. The stones you're shaping today bear faint small notches, nearly erased. Not instructions, not mistakes. More like signatures that didn't want to be remembered too clearly. You brush one with your thumb. It disappears into dust. A lesser-known detail surfaces gently. Many ancient workers left personal marks on stone, knowing full well they'd be hidden forever once construction finished. Proof of effort, not ego. You understand that impulse deeply. You glance up at the pyramid's rising face. From here, it looks smooth, almost calm. You know better. You know the adjustments, the compromises, the quiet decisions buried under each course, including yours. Light joke number 1 arrives without effort. If the pyramid ever needs therapy, it's going to have a lot to unpack. The day warms. The air thickens. You drink water, then a little beer, careful not to let your hands slip. Gravity is patient but unforgiving. Someone mentions an old story about a space inside the pyramid that listens. Not watches, listens. You don't react. You don't ask where they heard it. You focus on your stone. Heart steady. Stories bloom easily in places where explanations don't. Historians still debate how myth and daily labor intertwined at monumental sites like this. Whether belief-shaped construction or construction-shaped belief. Standing here, you suspect it went both ways. The afternoon passes with fewer interruptions. You finish a block and help guide it into place. It settles with a sound that feels final, like punctuation. You step back, satisfied. As shadows stretch, you realize something unexpected. You're no longer thinking about the chamber with urgency. It has moved from curiosity to context. It belongs to the pyramid now, not to you. That realization brings a quiet relief. At camp that evening, conversation turns to plans after this project ends. Some talk about farms, some about other work sites. One person jokes about retiring early and opening a bakery. You imagine honey everywhere and immediately reconsider. Second joke of the day. Bread is fine. Honey is a commitment. You eat, stretch, lie back, and let the stars do their slow, excessive thing. The pyramid's silhouette cuts into the sky, precise and indifferent. You feel small, but not insignificant. There's a difference. Sleep comes softly. In your dreams, you're not inside the pyramid this time. You're outside, watching it breathe. Not literally, just the illusion of it, as heat shifts and stone cools. It feels alive without needing to move. When you wake, the the feeling stays. You rise, return to work, and shape stone with the calm of someone who understands that not everything discovered needs to be disturbed. Some things are better left doing exactly what they were built to do, which, you're starting to suspect, might simply be waiting. The days blur together now, not in a dull way, but in the comfortable manner of a routine that no longer asks for permission. You wake, work, eat, sleep, repeat. The pyramid accepts your consistency like a long-term agreement signed without paperwork. Today, you're asked to help with alignment checks. It's quiet work, precise and slow, involving chords, shadows, and patience. You like it immediately. There's something soothing about standing still while time and light do the measuring for you. A widely accepted historical fact settles in gently. The Great Pyramid's alignment to true north is astonishingly accurate, even by modern standards. You don't think about how impressive that is. You think about how many mornings like this it must have taken people standing very still, trusting the sun to show them the truth. You hold a cord steady while another worker adjusts a marker. Neither of you speaks. You don't need to. The stone doesn't care about conversation. It cares about agreement. As you wait, you notice how sound behaves differently here. Voices seem to flatten. Footsteps soften. Even tools sound less sharp. The pyramid absorbs noise the way sand absorbs footprints, quietly and without comment. You think of the chamber again, not with excitement, but with familiarity. Like remembering a room in a house you no longer live in, but still know how to walk through in the dark. A lesser-known detail floats up. Some ancient Egyptian texts describe architecture as a form of frozen music, proportions and spaces meant to harmonize rather than impress. You glance at the rising structure and decide that explanation feels close enough to true. Light joke number 1 arrives lazily. If this is music, it's definitely a very long album. The alignment work takes hours. You shift weight from one foot to the other, careful not to disturb the setup. The sun moves, shadows creep. The pyramid's edge cuts a line so clean it feels intentional, even though you know it's just geometry doing its thing. Someone whispers a correction. You nod. The cord adjusts by the width of a fingernail. That's enough. It always is. Historians still wonder how much of this precision was planned in advance versus refined continuously on site. You suspect the answer involves a lot of standing very still and admitting when something feels off. When the task ends, you stretch slowly, joints popping like they're trying to join the conversation. You drink water and sit on a block that's still cool from the night. It's a small mercy. You take it gladly. As you rest, you notice a bee wandering near your feet, fuzzy and unhurried. It lands on the stone, seems to consider it, then lifts off again. You smile despite yourself. Even insects are curious about this place. Second joke of the day. If bees start paying rent, the pyramid might finally turn a profit. The afternoon brings lighter tasks. You help move tools, check surfaces, smooth edges that will never be seen again. Invisible work. You find satisfaction in that. There's a freedom in knowing your effort won't be scrutinized by history. Walking back to camp later, you realize your shoulders feel different. Not less tired, just more settled. Like they've accepted this weight as temporary, not personal. That night, you dream of chords stretching across the sky, stars aligning themselves without complaint. Somewhere inside that dream, a small stone room hums softly, content with its place in the pattern. You wake calm, steady, and ready to keep going. By now, the pyramid feels less like a project and more like an immense, quiet, and always present, even when you're not directly dealing with it. You know its moods. You can tell what kind of day it's going to be just by how the stone feels under your hands in the morning. today begins gently. The air is cooler than usual, carrying a softness that makes everyone move a little slower, a little kinder. No one rushes, no one complains. It's one of those rare mornings where the worksite seems to agree with itself. You're assigned to assist with tool maintenance and material sorting. It's not glamorous, but it matters. Tools behave better when they're respected. You clean dust from wooden handles, check stone weights for cracks, and line everything up neatly. Order, you've learned, calms people. It probably calms stone too. A widely accepted historical fact drifts in comfortably. Ancient Egyptian tools were simple but effective copper chisels. Wooden mallets, stone pounders kept functional through constant care rather than replacement. You run a cloth along a chisel's edge and think about how many hands it's passed through before yours. Nearby, two workers debate whether the pyramid will ever truly be finished. One insists nothing this large is ever done. It just reaches a point where people stop touching it. You silently agree. You've met enough stones to know they always think there's room for improvement. You carry a stack of ropes to the shade and pause to stretch. Your back sighs in relief. Light joke number 1 appears gently. If the pyramid ever collapses, it won't be from poor planning it'll be from everyone stretching at the same time. While sorting materials, you notice a small piece of limestone set aside, unusually smooth, almost polished. It doesn't belong with the rest. You turn it over in your hands. It fits your palm perfectly, like it was shaped to be held rather than placed. A lesser-known detail slips in. Some workers carried small stone pieces as personal tokens, reminders of their contribution to a structure they might never see completed. You consider keeping it, then decide against it. The pyramid already has enough of you. You set the stone back and return to your work. As the sun climbs, the sight grows warmer but not oppressive. The pyramid's shadow shifts slowly, predictably. You find comfort in that. Even something this enormous obeys simple rules. Historians still wonder how the psychological experience of working on such a monumental project shaped the workers themselves, whether it inspired pride, fatigue, reverence, or simply routine. For you, it's a blend, mostly routine, with moments of quiet awe that sneak up when you're not paying attention. Midday brings a short rest. You sit with your back against a block, eyes half closed. The stone is cool and steady. You could almost fall asleep like this. Almost someone nearby jokes about starting a counting game. How many stones can you see without moving your head? The answer is always too many, and everyone laughs softly. Second joke of the day, shared and harmless. When work resumes, you're asked to help guide a block into a narrow space. Precision matters. You focus completely, hands signaling, eyes tracking alignment. The block slides in cleanly, settling with a sound that feels right. Everyone relaxes at once, as if the pyramid has approved. As the day winds down, you feel a familiar calm. The chamber hasn't crossed your mind all afternoon. That feels like progress. Walking back to camp, you glance once at the pyramid, its edges glowing faintly in the evening light. It looks peaceful, finished, even though you know it's not. You lie down that night and listen to the distant sounds of the camp settling. Breathing slows. Thoughts soften. Somewhere inside the pyramid, stone rests on stone, perfectly content. And for once, so are you. The season begins to turn in subtle ways you wouldn't notice unless you were outside all day, every day. Mornings feel cooler, evenings linger longer. The stone holds onto warmth like it's reluctant to give it back. You notice it first in your hands. The limestone greets you differently, now less chalky, more solid. It's not a change you can explain easily. Just one. You register the way you register the mood of someone you've known a long time. Today's work takes you briefly inside the structure again, along a narrow internal passage used for moving tools and checking supports. It's not the hidden chamber, not even close, but your shoulders tense automatically as you step into the cool, dim space. The air smells older here, not unpleasant, just sealed, like a room that's been waiting politely. A widely accepted historical fact drifts by quietly. The internal passages of the Great Pyramid were engineered with remarkable precision, some sloping at exact angles thought to hold symbolic meaning. You walk carefully, feet remembering the slope even before your eyes adjust. Your lamp casts soft light along the walls. The stone is smoother here, less forgiving. Sound behaves oddly. Your footsteps echo once, then vanish. You resist the urge to clear your throat just to hear it respond. Light joke number 1 arrives gently. If this place had a sense of humor, it would absolutely judge your posture. You pause to check a support point, fingers tracing the edge where two stones meet. Perfect fit. No daylight, no draft. It reminds you of the chamber by contrast, not because it's similar, but because it isn't. That room had space to breathe. This one doesn't. You move on, finishing your check quickly and efficiently. You're glad to step back into open air, where the sun feels generous instead of watchful. The rest of the day passes calmly. Tasks are familiar. Movements are automatic. You catch yourself working without thinking, which feels like a small luxury. During a break, someone mentions how long honey can last without spoiling. Someone else claims it never goes bad. You shrug. Stone doesn't spoil either, and you've seen how that turns out. A lesser-known detail surfaces lazily. Jars of honey found in ancient tombs have been discovered still edible after thousands of years. You imagine offering some to the chamber, then immediately dismiss the thought. It doesn't need gifts. It has patience. Historians still wonder whether certain internal spaces were designed to be revisited or left entirely alone. Standing under the open sky again, you're firmly on the side of leaving some doors closed. As evening approaches, clouds gather faintly on the horizon, blushing pink and gold. The pyramid catches the light and throws it back softly, like it's pretending not to notice how beautiful it looks. Walking back to camp, you feel the pleasant heaviness of a day well spent. Muscles tired, mind quiet. That night, you sleep deeply, dreamlessly, the way only someone who's lifted stone all day can. The clouds never arrive. They hover at the edge of the horizon for days, threatening change, then politely decide against it. The air remains dry, clear, and predictably exactly how the pyramid seems to prefer it. You've started to notice that unpredictability belongs more to people than to stone. This morning, you're tasked with training a newer worker. He's younger, eager, and still thinks effort should be visible to matter. You recognize that phase. It fades quickly. You show him how to read the stone instead of fighting it, how to listen for the right sound when tapping, how to stop before frustration sets in. He nods, tries, fails, tries again. You don't rush him. A widely accepted historical fact settles comfortably. Pyramid construction relied heavily on skilled mentorship, with experienced workers passing down techniques orally and through demonstration rather than written manuals. You realize you're part of that chain now, whether you planned to be or not. The younger worker asks why some stones fit so tightly they look like one piece. You shrug and say, because they were asked nicely. He laughs, unsure if you're serious. Light joke number 1, delivered gently. As the day progresses, you notice how often people step back and simply look, not at the pyramid as a whole, but at their specific section. Pride isn't loud here. It's private. During a short pause, you find yourself standing in the pyramid's shadow, again the same one that once crept across the seam of the hidden chamber. The memory surfaces without urgency. Just acknowledgement. You place your hand against the stone, feeling its temperature, its stillness. It feels unchanged. That comforts you. A lesser-known detail drifts in. Some ancient workers believed certain stones absorbed intention, holding on to the care or carelessness of those who shaped them. You don't know if that's true, but you like the idea enough not to argue with it. Historians still debate whether belief systems influenced craftsmanship in measurable ways. You suspect they did, if only by slowing people down enough to pay attention. The afternoon is warm but manageable. You and the younger worker guide a block into place together. He's nervous. You aren't. The stone settles perfectly. His grin is quiet and proud. You don't comment. He doesn't need words. Second joke of the day floats by internally. Congratulations. You've just helped create a future expert who will someday complain about someone else's technique. As work ends, the younger worker thanks you. You nod. That's enough. That night, lying under the stars, you realize the pyramid no longer feels mysterious. Not because it's explained itself, but because you've stopped demanding explanations. Somewhere inside it, a small, silent chamber continues doing exactly what it was meant to do. And so do you. Time loosens its grip on exactness. You stop counting days. The pyramid keeps rising whether you mark it or not, and you've learned that tracking progress here works better by feel than by numbers. The stone tells you when something has changed. Your body does too. Today, there's a different energy on site. Not excitement, nothing so disruptive, but a sense of careful attention. Measurements are checked twice. Movements slow just a fraction. It's one of those days when everyone seems to agree that getting it right matters more than getting it done. You're assigned to assist with a narrow transition area, where internal stone meets outer structure. It's the kind of space that disappears once finished, but only if it's done correctly. Otherwise, it becomes noticeable in all the wrong ways. A widely accepted historical fact drifts in calmly. The Great Pyramid was constructed in stages, with internal and external elements interlocking to distribute weight evenly. You guide a stone into place and feel that truth settle physically under your hands. The stone resists at first, not stubbornly, just thoughtfully. You adjust the angle. Someone shifts a rope. Gravity considers your proposal. Then it fits. The sound it makes is subtle, almost polite. You step back, satisfied. These are the moments you'll never explain to anyone who hasn't done this kind of work. It's not about force. It's about listening. Light joke number 1 arrives lazily. If only conversations worked this way, just slightly. Wait, and suddenly everything fits. As the day unfolds, you find yourself unusually quiet, not withdrawn, just content to observe. The pyramid's shadow moves, cutting across the ground like a slow sundial that refuses to rush. During a break, you overhear someone discussing old records, how certain internal passages don't align perfectly with what later scribes described. Shrugging follows. Records simplify. Stone remembers. A lesser-known detail surfaces gently. Ancient architectural records often focused on ceremonial features, leaving practical or symbolic spaces undocumented. You think of the hidden chamber and feel no urge to correct anyone. Historians still wonder whether omissions in ancient plans were accidental or intentional, whether builders trusted the structure itself to carry meanings words could not. You suspect stone was always a better archive than ink. Late afternoon light softens everything. Edges blur. The pyramid glows faintly, as if pleased with itself. You help, tidy tools, moving slowly, deliberately. There's no rush home tonight. No unfinished tension tugging at you. As you walk back to camp, you realize something quietly remarkable. You're no longer carrying the pyramid with you when you leave. It stays where it is. Solid, complete in its incompleteness. You lie down under the stars, breathing evenly, thoughts drifting without effort. Somewhere inside the stone, silence holds its shape, and you let it. Morning light arrives thin and pale, slipping across the worksite, as if it doesn't want to disturb anything important. You appreciate that. Some days feel better when they don't announce themselves. Your body wakes before your thoughts do. Muscles stretch, joints protest briefly, then remember their role. You stand, dust yourself off, and walk toward the pyramid with the calm familiarity of someone returning to a place that no longer needs introductions. Today's work is observational more than physical. You're asked to assist in checking settled course stones placed weeks ago, now inspected for shifts or stress. It's quiet work, patient work, the kind that rewards attention rather than strength. A widely accepted historical fact drifts in gently. The Great Pyramid's construction included regular inspections, ensuring earlier layers remained stable before adding more weight above. You press your palm against a stone and feel its steady confidence. No movement, no complaint. You move slowly, listening. Not with your ears exactly, but with your hands, your feet, your sense of balance. Stone communicates best when you give it time. As you work, you notice how the pyramid's interior temperature stays remarkably consistent, cooler than outside during the day, warmer at night. It's comforting, like stepping into a well-managed household. Light joke number 1 slips in quietly. Apparently, even massive stone monuments believe in good insulation. During a pause, you sit on a low block and drink water. The taste is familiar, slightly metallic from the container, grounding in its predictability. You watch dust float lazily in a shaft of light and think about how long it might take to settle completely. A lesser-known detail surfaces. Ancient builders often relied on passive climate control, thick walls, narrow passages to regulate temperature naturally. You glance at the stone around you and nod. It's doing its job without asking for praise. Historians still wonder how much of this environmental mastery was intentional design versus learned adaptation over generations. Standing here, you suspect intention and experience blended until no one bothered separating them. Later in the day, you're asked to accompany a small group into a newly completed internal corridor. The hidden chamber, never that but close enough that the air feels familiar. You keep your expression neutral. Familiarity is private. The corridor is narrow, clean, finished. It leads somewhere important, or at least somewhere acknowledged. You check joints, run your fingers along seams, mark nothing. Everything is as it should be. You find it oddly reassuring that this space, unlike the hidden one, is meant to be walked through, spoken about, remembered. Not everything needs to be secret to be meaningful. Second joke of the day floats through your thoughts. Some rooms are for stories. Others are for silence, and both have excellent acoustics. When the inspection ends, you step back into sunlight and blink. The pyramid looms, unchanged by your brief absence. It never seems to notice when people come and go. As the afternoon fades, you help guide a small offering of food and drink to a ceremonial area nearby. Not your specialty, but hands are hands. Honey glints in the light. Bread smells warm and reassuring. Ritual feels gentler when it's tied to familiar things. Walking back at dusk, you feel unusually light. Not energized, just unburdened. The chamber hasn't crossed your mind all day, and that feels like progress of a different sort. That night, sleep comes easily. You dream of walking through corridors that open into open air, stone giving way to sky without effort. Nothing chases you. Nothing hides. You wake calm, rested, ready to continue exactly where you left off. The work site feels quieter than usual, though you can't point to any single reason why. Fewer jokes drift through the air. Fewer tools clatter. It's as if everyone has collectively decided to move with extra care, the way people do when walking through a room where someone is sleeping. You like days like this. Your task today involves smoothing exterior stones that will eventually catch the sun at just the right angle. It's detail work, repetitive and meditative. You scrape, brush, step back, adjust. The surface grows more even, more patient, more willing to reflect light without showing effort. A widely accepted historical fact settles in gently. The original casing stones of the Great Pyramid were polished limestone. So smooth they reflected sunlight brilliantly, visible from miles away. You imagine how blindingly bright the pyramid must have looked, once less a mountain, more a quiet announcement. As you work, you feel the warmth building beneath your palms. Stone holds heat differently than skin. It takes its time. It remembers. Light joke number 1 arrives softly. If stone had opinions, it would definitely complain about being touched all day. You pause to stretch your fingers and notice faint lines etched into the surface, not markings. Not symbols, just the subtle record of shaping. You know these lines will vanish under polishing, erased not by neglect but by completion. A lesser-known detail surfaces calmly. Many finishing touches on monumental stonework were intentionally subtle, designed to disappear once the structure reached its final form. Effort here is meant to be invisible. You respect that deeply. Midday passes without drama. The sun climbs. The pyramid's shadow shortens. The air shimmers slightly, making edges blur and reappear. It's easy to lose track of time when the environment does half the thinking for you. During a break, you sit near the base and lean back, eyes half closed. The stone behind you feels steady and supportive, like it's been practicing this role for a while. You breathe slowly, letting the rhythm settle. Historians still wonder how workers mentally coped with projects that would outlast them by centuries. Sitting here, you realize coping might be the wrong word. Acceptance feels closer. In the afternoon, a breeze stirs, gentle and unexpected. It carries the faintest hint of sweetness, honey again, or memory, or nothing at all. You smile briefly and return to work. Second joke of the day drifts in. If the pyramid ever moves, it'll do so very politely and well after everyone leaves. As the light softens, you step back to admire your work. The stone catches the sun evenly now. No harsh glare, no uneven patches. It doesn't draw attention to itself. It simply belongs. You clean your tools carefully, brushing dust away with the same care you used on the stone. Maintenance is a kind of respect. You've learned that here. Walking back to camp, the sky deepens into layered blues and golds. The pyramid stands quietly against it, no longer feeling mysterious, just present. That night, lying under the stars, you think briefly of the hidden chamber, not with curiosity, but with gratitude. It exists, it waits, it doesn't ask anything of you. Sleep arrives gently, like a hand resting on your shoulder, and you let yourself drift. You wake before dawn, not because of noise, but because of a feeling, an internal cue that says today will be slow, and slow is good. The air is cool enough to make breathing feel intentional. You sit up, stretch, and take a moment to appreciate that nothing hurts more than usual. That counts as a victory. The pyramid is still mostly in shadow when you arrive. Its outline is softer at this hour, edges blurred by low light. As if it's allowing itself a moment of rest before the sun insists on clarity. You lower your voice instinctively, though no one has asked you to. Today's tasks are scattered. A little guiding here, a little checking there. No single responsibility holds your full attention, which frees your mind to wander without urgency. You move through the site like someone who knows where everything is, even if you're not sure why. A widely accepted historical fact drifts in calmly. Large-scale ancient construction relied on flexible daily assignments, adjusting labor based on progress, weather, and worker condition. You appreciate that practicality. Stone may be rigid, but building it requires adaptability. As the sun rises, warmth returns gradually. You help position a block, then step aside to let others finish. You're not needed in the center of things today. That's fine. Peripheral work has its own piece. Light joke number 1 slips in gently. Being slightly unnecessary is an underrated skill. You wander closer to a familiar area, not the hidden chamber itself, but near enough that your body recognizes the proximity. The stone here feels cooler, quieter. You rest your hand against it briefly, not searching for anything, just acknowledging it. Nothing happens, and that feels exactly right. A lesser-known detail surfaces. Some ancient Egyptian beliefs held that certain spaces were complete only when left undisturbed, their power dependent on continued stillness. You don't know if that applies here, but you respect the idea. Historians still wonder whether undiscovered or undocumented spaces were intentionally concealed for spiritual reasons or practical ones, simply because no one felt the need to explain them. You lean toward the last option. Not everything requires an audience. The afternoon drifts by. Someone spills water and laughs at themselves. Someone else fixes a rope that didn't ask to be fixed. Small moments, loosely connected, fill the hours. As the day winds down, you realize something quietly profound. You no longer feel like a visitor here, not an intruder, not a temporary presence, just another element in the arrangement, like dust or light or shadow. Second joke of the day arrives softly. If the pyramid ever writes a guest list, you won't be on it, but you'll be in the footnotes. At dusk, the sky turns gentle shades of amber and blue. The pyramid absorbs the color, then releases it slowly. You stand for a moment longer than necessary, watching nothing in particular. That night, sleep comes easily again. Dreams are simple stone, light, silence, nothing needing interpretation. You rest well, knowing the pyramid will still be there when you wake. There's a sense of quiet closure in the air today, though no one announces it. The pyramid hasn't stopped growing, and the work isn't finished, but something feels settled. Like a sentence nearing its final punctuation, you arrive at the site with an unhurried pace. Your body knows what to do without being told. Your hands recognize the weight of tools before you pick them up. Even your breathing seems calibrated to the stone. Today's work involves final adjustments in an area that will soon be sealed from regular access. Not hidden, not secret, just complete. Once finished, it won't need attention again. You approach it with care, aware that this is the last time human hands will fuss over these particular stones. A widely accepted historical fact moves through your thoughts calmly. Many interior sections of the Great Pyramid were sealed permanently during construction, not as an afterthought, but as a planned conclusion to their purpose. You run your fingers along a seam, feeling for imperfection. There is none. Light joke number 1 arrives gently. The pyramid is very good at knowing when a conversation is over. You help guide a final stone into place. It's a careful process, slower than usual. No one rushes. Gravity settles the block with quiet confidence, and the sound it makes feels complete, like the last note of a song held just long enough. You step back and look at the wall. It gives nothing away. No hint of effort, no trace of hands. Just stone being stone. A lesser-known detail surfaces softly. Some ancient builders believed a structure's strength depended on how calmly its final elements were placed. Rushing, they thought, invited weakness. You're glad no one rushed today. As the sun moves across the sky, shadows shift, then stretch. The pyramid seems to exhale, not literally, of course, but in the way large projects do when they reach a certain maturity. You feel it in your shoulders. In your thoughts, historians still wonder how workers felt when monumental projects approached their final stages. Relief, pride, emptiness, or simply readiness to move on. For you, it's a blend of all four, softened by time and routine. During a break, you sit quietly, leaning against a stone that will never move again. It supports you without comment. You close your eyes briefly and let the warmth soak in. Second joke of the day drifts through lazily. This stone has officially committed to its position more than most people ever do. As evening approaches, tasks wind down naturally. Tools are cleaned, ropes are coiled, voices lower. There's no celebration, no speech, just the shared understanding that something important has settled into place. You take one last slow walk around the area, not inspecting, not remembering, just being present. The pyramid looms above, vast and composed, holding its secrets without strain. When you leave the site that night, you don't look back immediately. You know it will be there. It always is. Sleep comes gently, like a door closing without a sound. Morning arrives without ceremony, as it usually does. The light spreads across the plateau in slow, careful layers, and the Great Pyramid receives it without reaction. No glow, no shimmer, just stone meeting sun, the way it has learned to do. You walk the familiar path one last time. Not officially last, perhaps, but last in the way certain routines quietly conclude. The site hums with ordinary activity. Workers lift, measure, argue mildly about lunch. Life continues, unimpressed by enormity. You pause near the base, placing a hand against the limestone. It's cool now, still holding the night. A widely accepted historical fact settles into your thoughts. The Great Pyramid was the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 3,800 years, long after everyone involved in its creation had turned to dust. The idea feels abstract, almost unfair. Light joke number one surfaces gently. The pyramid clearly takes commitment very seriously. You don't think about the hidden chamber directly anymore. Not because it's forgotten, but because it has become background, like a remembered dream that no longer needs interpretation. It exists. That's enough. A lesser-known detail floats up. Some ancient Egyptian workers left small marks or symbols on stones that would never be seen again, not for recognition, but for personal closure. You wonder if any part of you has done the same here, invisibly. As the day progresses, you help with tasks that feel lighter, now guiding, advising, observing. Your role has softened. The pyramid no longer needs your constant attention. It knows what it is. Historians still wonder whether builders believed these monuments were ever truly finished, or if they saw them as ongoing participants in time itself. Slowly weathering, shifting meaning, outlasting intention. Standing here, you suspect the latter. You sit down for a final rest, watching shadows slide across the ground like unhurried thoughts. The air hums faintly with insects. Somewhere, someone laughs. The sound feels small and perfect. Second joke arrives quietly. Even eternity probably needs a lunch break. Eventually, you stand. There's nothing left to do, not because everything is done, but because your part is. You take a breath, steady and calm, and step away without ceremony. The pyramid remains, massive and patient, holding layers of purpose older than names. You leave it behind, not diminished, not replaced, just complete in your knowing. Sleep, later, feels deeper, quieter, like stone finally at rest. You're no longer standing beneath the pyramid now. The image softens, fades at the edges, like heat dissolving into evening air. What remains is a feeling solid, grounded, steady. Your breathing slows naturally, without instruction, in and out, each breath smooth and unforced, like a gentle, tide-touching stone that has never needed to move. Imagine the night settling over the desert. Stars appear one by one, unhurried, unconcerned with being counted. The pyramid rests beneath them, unchanged, unbothered, doing nothing at all and doing it perfectly. You don't need to hold on to the story anymore. It can stay where it belongs, folded neatly into the past, guarded by silence and time. Nothing is required of you now. Your body grows heavier in the best way, as if gravity has finally decided to be kind. Thoughts drift more slowly, stretching out, losing their edges. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to solve. If your mind wanders, let it wander. It will circle back on its own. Stone always does. The night is calm. You are safe. Everything important has already been built. Let yourself rest now.